The first breath hurt. It hurt in a way Darth Vader had almost forgotten. Not the mechanical rasp of filters and valves, but the raw sting of air touching scarred flesh. The sensation was intimate, obscene, like someone's hand in a wound. In the dark of his meditation chamber, he sat motionless, while the fortress around him shuddered with Mustafar's distant fury. Lava light bled through narrow slits, painting the obsidian walls in a slow, pulsing red. His suit wanted to live. It always did. The armor tightened in tiny compensations, the respirator whispered. The grafted systems measured pain and fed it back as proof that he still existed. Pain was the chain. Pain was the anchor. Pain was the Emperor's quiet laugh. Vader lifted his gloved hand and held it above the floor, palm down. The air trembled. Heat gathered, not from the planet's molten veins, but from him. A pressure built behind his ribs, behind his eyes, behind the sealed mask that had become his face. He had found the holocron weeks ago, buried in a vault beneath the fortress, sealed by Sith locks that stung like old lightning when he forced them open. It was ancient, older than the Empire, older than the war that had broken him. Its surface was warm, even in still air, like an animal's body. When he touched it, the force surged with a sick, sweet familiarity. Not the cold geometry of the Jedi, not the Emperor's predatory hunger. Something else. A promise. Regeneration, the holocron had offered, not in words, but in impressions that crawled under his skin. Flesh remembered what it had been. Bones could reknit. Skin could learn to be skin again. The dark side did not only destroy, it could remake, if you paid its price. Vader had paid. He had brought captives to the chamber, pirates and smugglers snatched from the hyperspace lanes, men who screamed and begged and tried to bargain with names and credits. Vader did not listen. He took their fear like air, took their hope like water, took their life like an unremarkable tool, and fed it into the shape the holocron demanded. Each time he did, something in his body shifted. A nerve woke and burned. A patch of numb flesh prickled. A scar tightened, then loosened. The suit registered anomalies and tried to correct them, as if the armor could bully his living tissue back into compliance. Now, on this night, the holocron hovered before him, turning slowly, its edges catching the lava glow. He reached through the force and felt the lattice of it, the dark mathematics that held the secret together. The technique was not gentle. It was not healing. It was conquest. He pressed his will into his own ruined cells like a blade. He remembered his body. He remembered the way sun felt on his arms, the way sand stuck to sweat, the way wind tasted above a city planet's endless traffic. He remembered hands that had been hands, not gauntlets. He remembered the weight of a lightsaber that did not feel like an extension of a machine. He remembered her. For a moment, in the pressure behind his eyes, Padme's face rose like a drowning thing breaking the surface. Not the still mask of death he carried in memory, but the living curve of her mouth when she smiled and did not know she was doing it. Her voice, soft and furious, her hands on his cheeks, insisting he was more than what he feared. The memory cut deeper than any blade. Vader's breath caught and the respirator stuttered, trying to drag him back into its rhythm. No, not tonight. He let the grief flare, let it become fuel. The dark side did not ask him to let go. It asked him to clutch tighter until his fingers bled. He seized the memory, seized the pain, seized the hatred he had worn like a second suit, and he poured it inward. His chest convulsed. Inside the armor, his skin, what remained of it, twitched as if startled awake. The raw tissue across his shoulders tightened, then softened. A sensation like hot rain cascaded through him, prickling, crawling, knitting. He could feel it happening. He could feel new flesh blossoming beneath old ruin. The suit began to protest. Warning lights flared on the internal display. Emergency protocols engaged, trying to stabilize a body it no longer understood. The respirator forced a deeper pull of air, harsher, like a fist down his throat. Vader reached up and tore the mask from his face. The chamber filled with the sound of his true breathing, ragged and wet. The air scratched his throat, but he breathed anyway. He tasted metal and ash and something faintly sweet, like the memory of rain. He did not collapse. He did not die. He pressed his bare fingers against his own neck, bare. The glove had split as his hand changed shape, tendons thickening, bones aligning. His fingertips found skin that had not been there, skin with heat and pulse and the faint tremor of life. A laugh tried to rise in him and came out as a cough. The holocron spun faster. The room darkened as if the lava glow itself was being pulled into him. Vader felt his body surge with violent insistence. Muscles tightened. Scars loosened. A rib that had been a constant ache shifted and settled. The sensation was not relief. It was invasion. He clutched at the edge of the platform and forced himself to remain upright. The dark side demanded he witness every moment. He felt the memory of fire in his nerves, and then he felt the absence of it, as if the flames that had once consumed him were being pushed back, denied, overwritten by a new command. Live. His lungs expanded fully for the first time in years. He sucked in air and did not choke. His heart thundered, not the monitored thump of a half-machine organ, but the furious drum of an animal refusing to lay down. He stood. He unfastened the chest panel with hands that were no longer clumsy tools. The armor resisted, servos whining, as if the suit had its own fear. Vader tore it away. The cables that fed his body tugged like stubborn vines. And he ripped those free too. One by one, each disconnection a sharp flash of pain that ended in sudden silence. When the last cable snapped loose, the suit's systems screamed in protest. Then they fell quiet. Vader stepped out of the armor. The chamber air met him like a slap. Heat rolled across his skin, but it did not blister. He looked down at himself in the lava glow, a body marked by pale lines where scars had been, a body still thin from years of confinement, but unmistakably whole. His arms were arms. His legs bore his weight without mechanical help. His hands flexed, and he could feel each joint's honest movement. He raised his palm and summoned his lightsaber. The hilt flew into his grasp. The familiar weight settled in his hand, and for a moment he was not the Empire's monster. He was something else, something older, something he had been told was dead. The door hissed. Vader did not turn. He heard the cautious footfall, the slight pause before a voice that tried to pretend it wasn't afraid. "My lord," said the Imperial officer, breathless. "We detected a system failure." The officer stepped in, then froze. In the doorway's harsh light stood not the towering armored specter, but a tall man in black underclothes, pale-skinned, eyes like burned coals. The officer's mouth opened, closed, opened again. His mind tried to make sense of the sight and failed. Vader let the silence stretch until it became a noose. You saw nothing, he said. The force slid into the officer's mind like a blade into soft fruit. The man's pupils widened. His breath stuttered. He nodded stiffly, as if agreeing to a command he could not fully hear. You will tell no one, Vader continued, voice low and sharp. If you speak of this, your tongue will rot in your mouth. The officer nodded again, frantic now, and backed out of the chamber without turning his back, stumbling over his own boots. The door sealed. Vader stood alone with his discarded shell. He looked at the suit on the floor. It was still, empty, its mask staring up at the ceiling like a dead thing. For years, it had been both prison and weapon. It had made him terrible. It had made him unkillable. It had made him obedient in the most humiliating way, forcing him to depend on systems the Emperor could cut off with a gesture. Now it was only metal, a memory, a lie. He should have felt triumphant. Instead, he felt exposed. The suit had been a kind of armor against himself. Behind it, he had been able to pretend he was already lost, that nothing inside him mattered because there was nothing human left to betray. Now his skin tingled with life. His lungs drew air that did not require permission. His heartbeat reminded him, relentlessly, that he could be hurt in new ways. He closed his eyes. In the Force, the galaxy shifted. He sensed the Emperor, far away, yet impossibly close, like a shadow behind his own thoughts. The Emperor's presence was not surprised. It was amused. It coiled around Vader's newfound vitality, with possessive interest, as if tasting a change in a familiar instrument. A voice slid into Vader's mind, smooth as oil. So, you found another path. Vader's jaw tightened. The Emperor's mental touch hovered over his body, curious, invasive, delighted. You will bring yourself to me, the Emperor continued. I would like to see what you have become. Vader opened his eyes. In the chamber, the lava glow flickered, and his shadow stretched across the floor, long and warped. For a moment, it looked like the old, armored shape, and then it shifted into something else. A man's outline, sharp-shouldered, bare-headed. He could feel the Emperor's expectation like chains already being fitted. He could also feel something he had not felt in a long time. Possibility. The holocron still hovered in the air, spinning slowly now, its warmth pulsing as if it had a heartbeat of its own. Vader reached out and closed his fingers around it. The object's surface responded like living flesh, subtly resisting, subtly yielding. It wanted to be held. It wanted to be used again. He could not let the Emperor have it. He could not let the Emperor have this. He turned toward the chamber's private balcony, where the heat rose in waves and the world outside roared red. Mustafar's sky churned with smoke and ash. The fortress stood like a wound in the landscape, black against flame. Vader stepped into the open air. The heat caressed him, testing him. He stood straight, letting it touch his skin, letting it remind him where he had been forged. The night wind carried sparks that danced and died against his arms. He watched them fade, and something inside him steadied. He was alive. That meant he could choose. The Emperor wanted him obedient. The Emperor wanted him grateful. The Emperor wanted him to crawl into the light of Coruscant's glittering throne room and present his regenerated flesh like an offering. Vader tightened his grip on the holocron. He imagined the Emperor's eyes widening, not with fear, but with hunger. He imagined the Emperor's thin smile. He imagined the Emperor's lightning dancing over this new skin, burning it away again, not out of anger, but out of ownership, reminding Vader that nothing in the galaxy belonged to him. A tremor ran through Vader's hands. Not weakness, rage. He looked back at the chamber where the empty suit lay. He did not hate it. Hate was too simple. The armor had been a coffin he carried. It had been his penance. It had been his excuse. He walked back inside. He did not put it on. Instead, he raised his hand, palm outward, and the suit lifted from the floor. It hovered in front of him, heavy and helpless. He turned it slowly in the air, studying the mask, the chest panel, the limb joints that had made him move like a nightmare. Then he clenched his fist. The suit crumpled with a scream of tortured metal. The mask buckled. The chest plate folded inward. The arms twisted into useless shapes. It collapsed into a black heap. Vader exhaled, and the sound was almost a growl. The Emperor's presence pressed closer in his mind, intrigued. "You destroy your armor," the Emperor murmured. "How dramatic." Vader did not answer. He walked to the fortress's communications console, keyed in a secure channel, and watched the lights blink as the system searched for the encrypted link to the heart of the Empire. He could feel the Emperor waiting on the other end, calm and confident, as if the galaxy itself were his throne. Vader paused with his finger above the activation key. For a heartbeat, he saw Padme again, not as a ghost, but as the idea of a life that might have been. He saw the Jedi Temple's sunlit halls. He saw a boy on Tatooine staring at twin suns. He saw a man who had once believed he could save everyone. The visions were cruel, but cruelty was familiar. Vader pressed the activation key. The Emperor's voice came through the channel, smooth and satisfied. "Lord Vader." Vader leaned close to the console and spoke with a voice that was no longer filtered through a mask. "My name," he said, each word deliberate, "is Anakin Skywalker." The line went silent for the briefest moment, the kind of silence that only happens when something ancient and carefully controlled has been touched. Then the Emperor laughed softly, like someone savoring a meal. How charming. Vader's eyes narrowed. He could feel the Emperor's will reaching, trying to wrap around him. Vader continued anyway. "You wanted a weapon. You forged one. But you also forged my hatred. And you made a mistake. You taught me how to survive you." The Emperor's laughter faded into something colder. "You are nothing without me." Vader's hand tightened around the holocron until its edges dug into his skin. He welcomed the bite. He welcomed the proof that he could bleed and still stand. "We will see," Vader said. He ended the transmission. Outside, Mustafar roared. Inside, the fortress seemed to hold its breath. Vader stood in the chamber, bare and whole, with the dark side's secret pulsing in his hand. He knew the Emperor would come for him. He knew lightning and fleets and assassins and traps would crawl toward this fortress, like predators sniffing blood. He also knew something else, something that felt almost like light even as it burned black in his chest. For the first time since the fire, he could run, not away, toward the Emperor's throat, toward the truth, toward whatever fate waited for a man who had been a monster and had remembered too late that he was still a man. Vader, Anakin, turned to the balcony again, and the heat met him like a challenge. He stepped into it and did not flinch.